Recorded live.
All right, welcome to the Fan Film Podcast. This is episode 81, and today's guest is going to be Brian Rosenthal, so we're waiting for him to get on the line. But in the meantime, let me introduce my co-host and friend, Mr. Jeffrey Clark. Say hello, Jeff.
Hello, Jeff. See what I did there. Oh, sorry. I was still referring to shaking out, Gracie. That was my former co-host and former friend, Jeff Clark. Thinks he was an idiot.
Yeah, that's all right. Selfless.
Good deal.
All right, so we do have...
about today's guest. I watched the fan films, and they were fantastic.
Yep. All right, well, Brian is on the other line, so are you ready? You got your questions ready?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that makes one of us. All right. Hey, Brian? Brian, you with us?
I am here, present.
Hey, sir. Thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Definitely.
Let me introduce Mr. Brian Rosenthal, right, sir?
Close enough.
All right. Cool. Okay. Brian Rosenthal with us today. He's done a couple fan films. He's done more than a couple, but specifically he's done Marvel vs. Army of Darkness, and also his follow-up is Ash vs. Lobo and the DC Dead. So we'll be talking about that today and anything else he wants to talk about. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
All right, Brian. Hey, man, can we start off, just shoot us some of your background? What brought you in to get you into film?
Well, I started back in, I want to say around back in high school. I did the whole, school news program thing, and, I would sneak in skits and stuff like that. This is back in the super VHS, deck-to-deck editing sort of era before digital even came around. So we're talking like late 90s kind of thing. So I started around then. I did some short films. I actually did a Die Hard fan film when I was like 17 or 18, and just had a lot of fun with the stuff, and eventually I got a little more serious and turned it into my 9 to 5, and started doing videography and stuff like that in terms of just basic event videography. Nothing fancy, but I kept the filmmaking thing alive, and I guess around when the DSLR revolution came around, around 08, 09, 2010, right around there, I hopped on board. I mean, YouTube was at its peak, and camera technology was getting to a point where anybody with $1,000 could get a camera that could shoot something that looked relatively similar to a real film, if you knew how to light and so on and so forth, which was a first. That was never really a thing. As long as I've been into film, we were always, knuckling around with garbage cameras with small sensors and mini DV and high 8 and all these, really antiquated, subpar technologies that in no way rivaled film until, DSLR sort of rolled around and laid off. But, and then the fan films happened. I started the YouTube channel and decided to make Marvel Zombies. I just kind of wanted to do something different and sort of big and, something that could only sort of exist on the internet that had, no real business existing anywhere else. So that was kind of the impetus for all that.
Yeah, any special schooling that you went to?
No, I actually... Mm-hmm. I actually skipped film school. It was a really quick decision. I realized that the amount of money it would cost me to go to film school and not necessarily even get the exact education that I wanted was many times over what it would cost me to go out and actually shoot my first film. So that's what I did.
Right.
I went out and shot a little feature on mini DV. Hour and a half long kind of deal. Not the kind of thing that you'll ever see anywhere, but it was a really fun learning experience, and I learned a heck of a lot during that year or so that it took me to do that back when I was 20, 21 years old. So that's my story.
Okay. With YouTube, with the internet, man, you can go out and have your own education, not just film, but pretty much anything. I fix my lawnmower. I fix my garbage disposal just by going on YouTube and learning how to do it. I didn't
pretty much learn
do
anything,
proper. Say that again. I'm sorry, Brian.
Oh no, you can pretty much learn anything on the internet. I mean,
exactly. Yeah, I didn't really properly introduce us. I'm Chris Moshier. That's who's talking right now, and my co-host is Jeffrey Clark. Sorry, I should have done that right off the get-go.
Cool. Jerry? It was
right, Jeff.
Jeff or Jerry? I'm sorry, I couldn't catch that.
Jeff,
gotcha. Chris and Jeff,
yeah.
Awesome.
Got it. All right, Jeff, what do you got for Brian?
Chris and I have been friends since high school, and we used to make kind of movies ourselves back in the day. And it's just, I watched the Marvel Zombies and the Lobo, and they were fantastic. It's the quality and just everything. The look was fantastic. I thought the acting was quite good. But my question was, Chris and I used to do kind of our own movies back. This was in the late '80s when I had like 16. Was it a 16 millimeter camera you had, Chris?
No, it was actually VHS.
Was it? I remember we used to make our own films, but it's just, I guess basically the acting I was really impressed with. Are these the actors friends of yours, or do you have a casting call? How do you go about that process?
Well, for the fan films, a lot of it was really kept with friends, because I knew the amount of, time and dedication that it would take, and especially with the first one, more so with the first one, just because I didn't have any, so to speak, clout. Like there was no reason anybody should sort of follow me into war, so it had to be friends to a degree, After Marvel Zombies, people were much more willing to, kind of jump on board and be like, all right, whatever you need, man. So I lucked out in that sense. But the first one was definitely all friends. Dave Von Hipschen, who plays Ash, he and I go way back. He actually starred in a short film that I did back in '08, and he actually starred in my first feature film, the one that I said would never ever come out, and it never ever will. If I have anything to say about it. But he was in that back in 2000, right around there. So I mean, he and I go way back. The actor who played Wolverine is a friend of a friend. It was just it was all kept kind of in house, so to speak, just because it was such a weird undertaking. It's like, all right, guys, let's go into a garage for several nights, and just kind of shoot this crazy thing and wave at people as they drive by and pretend we're not out of our minds, And
I guess the follow-up question to that was the genesis of that idea, Marvel Zombies versus Ash. Was it just how did you come up with that story? Was it just something because it was a kind of an amalgam or a mashup of a couple things you liked and a couple franchises fan of?
First of all, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm definitely more of a film nerd than I am a comic book nerd. I'll say that. So it was more of an Evil Dead thing. Ash hadn't been around since the early '90s, and there was no television show to speak of at the time that we made it, and there wasn't even a word about that. So it was just kind of like, hey, who people haven't seen in fucking 30. Excuse me, can I curse? Am I allowed to curse? Excuse me.
Oh, you fucking can, yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So, it was like, geez, Ash hasn't been around in fucking like almost 30 years, and he's an awesome character, and Bruce Campbell's never going to get around to doing him again, which is what I thought back when I made the fan film. I was like, that's never going to happen. They keep talking, and it's just, it's not amounting to anything. So it's like, this would be like a total left field thing, if nobody else is going to come to bat and, bring Evil Dead back, why the hell shouldn't I? It'd be kind of fun to do as a fan film. And I'd owned the comic book that it was based on. There actually is a Marvel Zombies versus Army of Darkness comic.
I love it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It has nothing to do with the shorts that I made. I totally ran with it my own way. But the name itself and the core idea of these two universes coming together was existed in the comic before, and it's something I picked up back like whenever it came out. I want to say the mid-aughts, around there. I just saw it on a comic book shelf, and I was like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I don't care what the fucking story is. I'm buying this. You know?
I didn't know that. Being I'm more of a movie guy than comics too, but I may have to check that out just because it sounds fun.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what drove me to pick it up. I wasn't really into there are certain comic lines that I read, certain big story arcs that I'll pick up and go through. But generally, I'm not a hardcore comic reader. But when I saw that on the shelf, it's like, oh my God, Ash and Wolverine together? Like, what the hell? I gotta know.
How can you not have it?
Yeah, no, exactly. You know, so it just sat there for a number of years until this this project came around, and I was like, wait a minute, nobody's been crazy enough to do this yet. So, and of course, this was back before any of the comic book companies, the studios were thinking about doing R-rated comic book films. Those weren't really around either. So it was like, this is definitely not going to exist any other way. So, unless some other crazy bastard thinks about it first, I might have something interesting here.
Yeah, the dead shot in Logan, that definitely changed the landscape as far as the thinking, as far as your R-rated comic books. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That and Deadpool, they really kind of blew the doors wide open, and I think we're starting to see a lot more R-rated content and movies coming out lately, which is a great thing because I despise PG-13.
Right.
I remember
a totally different universe.
A lot of people got very upset with the Marvel people when they did, the Deadpool movie was, I can't take my kid. He's like, yeah, but you would change the entire complexity of that character if you tried to make it PG. He's just, it's not a PC character. You have to make that an adult character. So I would agree with you guys.
Yeah, totally. I mean, not all comic book properties are necessarily meant to kind of pander to all ages and all demographics. Some of them are too over the top or too adult, like in the case of Deadpool and Logan, respectively. And they require a certain level of either honesty or over the topness in their filmmaking, which you just can't get away with in PG-13. And that's a whole other argument too, in terms of like violence in PG-13 movies, which I think is kind of, I have a weird problem with it. I love the 80s. I'm a big fan of Paul Verhoeven movies. When a gunshot goes off, like a dude explodes into like a pile of red goo, and I think there's an honesty to that, It's teaching the kids a lesson. It's like you pull a trigger and something really, really bad is going to happen. These days in PG-13 movies, it's like you hear a little pop and like the next thing you know, the guy's on the floor. You don't see any blood. So it's kind of weird. I don't know. I hate PG-13.
Yeah, I'm not a fan either.
Going back to just a throw-out question, as far as when I'm ever watching fan films, I understand because the budgets are very low, but you did film in a parking garage. I see, people film in the woods, people film in their apartments. It's just, that seems to be the standard. They don't really go out and find, locations or get permission to film in different things. Did you get any permission as far as filming in that parking garage?
In like a roundabout kind of way.
Okay.
Our quote-unquote producer at the time said that he had obtained permission from the building management where we were shooting, but I'm not sure how accurate that was. I think that permission might have been a little tenuous because we got kicked out on like the fourth night.
Oh, geez.
And no, there was a little bit of a nightmare. We actually got totally kicked out, and we had not done any of the reverses on Wolverine. So we're stuck with like half of this thing shot and trying to figure out how we're going to complete it without our, the original location we had. And of course, we wouldn't have shot there had I not been under the impression that we were allowed to be there. But of course, as I found out, the fourth night, we kind of weren't. So we scrambled and we found another parking garage that we did get. I personally got permission to shoot at, so I knew that everything was going to be okay. And basically, we picked up the other half of the short at this other garage, and through color correction and lighting, we did our best to make it look like the same garage. It's actually two different garages for the most part.
Oh, okay. See, I wouldn't have known the difference. Or I did not know.
It's tough to tell, and I made sure that would be the case. We shot with like a lot of long lenses and stuff, so that we could really throw the background out of focus and make sure that your attention is in the foreground with the characters, that kind of stuff. So every trick in the book to make sure that nobody would notice.
I thought the continuity was excellent. As Chris said, I wouldn't have noticed. And the other thing I really loved about the movies, both of them, was that you can see the love of the franchises in it, because the continuity or the feel of the originals is there. The mass-produced, the studio ones. You can kind of feel that the homages. I love the tone and the camera work, and when the Deadites are flying at him, and it's just kind of all over the place. And your actor that played Ash was fantastic. He just had the Bruce Campbell mannerisms and humor down. You could just feel the love of the franchises in them. So they were really well done. I was impressed.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I'm obviously a huge Evil Dead nut. So it was a lot of fun to like, and again, this is back in like 2013. So like, there wasn't any talk of an Evil Dead show at that time, and it was just so much fun to be able to bring this character back out and for the internet to react and be like, "Oh shit, Evil Dead, we remember you." And it's like, yes, that's right. Ash is awesome. You should remember Ash. By the time the second one came around, like we had found out, I think right around the time we were in production, that the show was slated to come out, and that took a little bit of our steam out. We were like, oh man, as awesome as it is that the real Ash is coming back, it's like here we are doing our sketch bullshit over here, doing our.
What do you think of the new show? Do you a fan? I would imagine.
I am. I definitely think there's room for improvement in places, but I mean, what the hell do I know? I'm a hardcore fan. I own 1,000 copies of Army of Darkness on various formats. So,
just great to have the character back on screen,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if nothing else, the character is intact. There's a handful of really good episodes. Even if the seasons themselves don't necessarily, in my opinion, kind of come together. There's a handful, especially in the second. I think the second season was really solid. They did a lot of sort of homages to other horror films. Like there was like the Carrie episode. There was the Christine episode with the car getting possessed and stuff like that. So they were paying little homages to other horror franchises and other sort of horror iconography throughout the second season. And I thought it was a ton of fun, especially the I don't know if you guys caught it, the episode where he ends up in the morgue and Bruce Campbell's just totally up this dead guy's butt. It's just amazing.
I made it through the first season, and the second season is on Netflix, which I have to sit down and watch. What's Steve Austin there? What the hell's his name? He's the father, right? He's the father of Ash. Lee Majors.
Yeah, Lee Majors. He plays.
The $6 million man.
Yep. I got to say, I definitely like the second season more than the first season. Highly recommended.
Okay.
I'll have to check season 2 out. I'm just season 1 is all I've seen, but I liked it. So.
Yep.
It's Evil Dead. I mean, if you're going to do Evil Dead as a show, that's what it is. So you can't really. There's not much room to complain. It's Evil Dead.
Well, I'm at the same point, I'm with the Star Wars and Indiana Jones franchises. There's a lot of stuff that, fans don't like, but it's kind of like, but some Star Wars and some Indiana Jones is better than none. The same, some Ash is better than none, even if there's room for improvement. He's on screen, and now, you can make those improvements.
No, totally. I agree. I personally have had a lot of fun with most of the new Star Wars stuff that's come out. Without getting into too much detail, I mean, Indiana Jones, I'm in the minority here, but I enjoyed Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, even though it's easily the worst in the franchise. I still enjoy it.
Me too.
For what it was, it was like an Indiana Jones fan film made by, for sure. It had a lot of fun winking at the audience, and, if you were on board with kind of, Spielberg winking at you and going, we're going to have some fun. And it was kind of like it was more of a fan film, the last Indiana Jones, in a way, right. With all the callbacks and like, the heavy wink and nod and so to speak.
Yeah, 100 million plus fan film, exactly.
Pretty much, which is what the recent Star Wars movies have kind of been. I mean, they're all gigantic fan films. Yeah, exactly.
Do you think it's just...
What's that?
I was going to say, do you just think it's just, the older fans just wanting to, I don't know, feel what they felt when they originally watched the original trilogy or the original Raiders of the Lost Ark, and now the new films have come out, and they just want that feeling that they did as a kid, and they're just not getting it? You think that's why a lot of people complain on that?
I think a lot of people complain because there are too many people with different expectations, and you're never going to get around that. Everybody sort of, especially with the internet giving everyone sort of a podium and a microphone to yell into, everyone sort of has their own version of how these stories should go and how these characters should sort of be portrayed and so on and so forth. And it's hard to contend with that. I happen to really like The Last Jedi. I happen to really like The Force Awakens. Wasn't such a big fan of Rogue One. But I thought those films, as a diehard Star Wars fan, I thought those films captured, well, especially The Force Awakens, say what you will about, the story sort of being a total retread and this and that. Tonally, in terms of capturing the essence of the original trilogy while still giving it a little bit of a modern spin, I thought The Force Awakens was just like one of the most emotionally satisfying theater experiences of my adult life. I felt like a kid again when I was in that movie. And it nailed for me what Star Wars is supposed to feel like. And that's my opinion on, I guess, reboots and remakes and sequels is, you're trying to capture the feeling more than anything, and I thought the last couple of numbered Star Wars entries did that really, really well.
I can agree with that.
Well, let me ask you both a question. This is kind of just a general fan film. Brian is a fan filmmaker and a filmmaker, and Chris is a longtime fan, and we've made a couple of films ourselves. We had maybe the guy I consider to be the ultimate fan film guy made good. We almost lost Kevin Smith this week. A massive heart attack and was lucky to survive. But it's just if you guys are either you guys are fans of his work, I'm a huge fan. But I can kind of consider him the godfather of fan films. I mean, he sold his comic book collection just to make his first film, and I don't know your thoughts, but I'm glad he's going to be around for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Kevin Smith. I mean, he's responsible for indie filmmakers being able to do their thing today. I mean, if it wasn't for people like him and Quentin Tarantino in the early 90s, there wouldn't be indie films and fan films right now, and especially Kevin Smith, who is just like the most genuine geek on earth turned filmmaker. I love him. I love all his original films. I'm not sure about the last couple.
I like that.
I'm not sure about that Walrus one, and I'm not sure about that one that took place in a convenience store with like little blueberry muffin Kevin Smith monsters. But I do love Clerks. I do love Chasing Amy. I do love Mallrats.
Yeah.
I love Jay and Silent Bob.
He's made some great films.
He has. He really has. And I was seriously freaking out when I heard about it. I was like, oh my god! Like, I heard about it while I was on a shoot, and one of my friends posted something, and I immediately messaged him back. I was like, I don't have time to research this right now. What's going on? Update me. Is he alive? Is he naked? What's going on?
It's actually supposed to be like a Mallrats TV show that he's developing as well, so that should be interesting. And they're supposed to reprise their characters of Jay and Silent Bob, supposedly, at 40 years old.
which I think would be really interesting. Like, I don't know, that works for me. I'd like to see, what happens to Jay and Bob when they're like way past their prime.
Right, exactly.
It's a fun concept. It's kind of like Bill and Ted now, you know.
Yeah. And they were supposed to bring that back too. That I haven't heard anything in a long time about that either.
Yeah, there's talks. I read things here and there, but you know, nothing has come to fruition yet.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, there does seem to be a general nostalgia for things where, you know, they want to do either remakes or, of course, you know, Rosanna's coming back on the air after 20 years. It's just, you know, I kind of go back to what, you know, Brian had said about, you know, people wanting to kind of recapture that feeling of when they were at that time in their lives and watching these things, and it was exciting and fun. And, you know, sometimes, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's definitely interesting that the trend that we're seeing of going back to these old classics.
Yeah. Come on, man. You're a big Fuller House fan. I know you are.
Hey, you know.
No. Oh, Lord.
Candace Cameron looks pretty good now.
Yeah, right.
Jodie Sweetin, that's where it's at. But,
Jodie Sweetin's pretty hot, too. Absolutely.
But I think they're getting reboots and remakes a little more right recently than they were in years past. Like when they around the time that they were doing like the Total Recall reboot and the RoboCop reboot. Those were painfully unnecessary. Those didn't need to exist. But there's been some stuff recently that you know, not any really big franchises, but you know, little things here and there that have worked. I've been watching the Voltron reboot series on Netflix. That's fun. They managed to do a good job. But yeah, Voltron's awesome. I'm not a Power Rangers guy. I was like already in my teens when that came out. So that was
I was in my 20s. So
yeah, no, that didn't work for me. I was a Voltron guy. But you know, there's a lot of. I think filmmakers are starting to get the idea more that, you know, the audiences are looking to recapture the feeling that they had with these shows. And you're also dealing with filmmakers that are probably my age that actually grew up with this stuff and actually love it. And so there's probably, you know, there's more authenticity to these reboots now rather than like it being a studio mandate demand, you know, and Michael Bay gets hired who doesn't give two fucks about Transformers and didn't grow up with it, you know, and it's just a total cash-in. So at the very least, even though these projects now are still cash-ins, I think there's more heart going into them just because, you know, the filmmakers behind them are probably at the right age to do them.
Yeah. All right, Brian. Well, to get back into your fan films, most specifically, Ash versus Lobo and the DC Dead there. As far as the makeup effects, I mean, they were good in the Marvel Zombie one, but they certainly went up a step for the Ash versus Lobo. Can you touch upon that and who was involved in all that?
We had two different makeup artists. I mean, the first one, Marvel Zombies, was in 2013, and that was a wonderfully talented makeup artist by the name of Keegan Hitchcock. And she did all the stuff with Wolverine and the zombies in the first one. And the second one, which we shot in 2015, if I'm remembering correctly, or 2016, the makeup effects were done by Vanessa Riga. And she did Lobo's makeup, she did the zombies, she did pretty much any of the practical on-screen zombie effects that you saw. Zombie Batman. Yeah, she did that as well. So
that was freaky.
That was probably the whole reason I did this thing. I was like, you know, if I can have an excuse to fuck Batman up on screen, I'm going to do it.
That was my favorite. That was my biggest laugh is when he ripped off Batman's jaw and he says, "There's only one problem. This isn't your fan film." That was my favorite line of the whole. It was awesome.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I obviously didn't take things too seriously. I was just aiming to have a lot of fun with it. So, you know,
it showed. It was fun.
Thank you.
So does Sam Raimi, right? In the Evil Dead movies. I mean, he doesn't take them too seriously either. There's a lot of comedy.
Exactly. You know, so that's definitely what I was going for. You know, recapture the same thing. As long as I'm laughing behind the camera, you know, we're good to go.
And interesting enough, I was looking at the IMDb page. The chick that played Gwen Stacy in the first one is not the chick in the second one. How did you work that out?
Back to the Future 2'd it. No, seriously.
I didn't notice until I read the IMDb page.
Yeah, totally different actresses. So it was, several years later, the actress from the original had moved on to greener pastures, and basically I had a story already for the second one. It was all written out, and she had originally wanted to do it, and then just things didn't work out schedule-wise, and I was like, I'm not going to rewrite this whole thing because I've got this really cool ending worked out, and so I was like, fuck it, I'm going to recast it. I'm going to Back to the Future 2 this shit. So basically what I did was I reshot a couple of shots from the end of the first Marvel Zombies with the new actress, re-edited her into the ending of the original, and then that became the sort of intro to the second one. So if you watch the first one and then you take a few minutes and have a coffee break and come back and watch the second one, you may not notice it.
It's pretty seamless because honestly, I was completely blissfully ignorant. I did not notice. Till Chris said it, I didn't notice it was a different actress. That's how oblivious I am.
That's either a credit to what we've done or a detriment. I'm not sure, but
no, definitely a credit.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, let me ask you this: as a filmmaker, do you have a dream project, something that you'd love to do, like a bucket list film?
In terms of like existing properties or original stuff that I'm working on?
Anything, whatever your dream project would be.
Well, they already remade RoboCop, so that's off the list. They already remade Ghostbusters, so that's off the list.
Yeah, but they were both done badly.
I was gonna say you could do both probably better. So.
With absolutely no ego, I think I probably could, but that said, I think those films are kind of pissed in the pool for a little while, and we got to wait for the waters to clear.
Yeah.
I have a handful of original projects that are sitting around. One that I'm actually trying to get off the ground right now. I've just finished up the kind of the sizzle trailer and the pitch deck and all the sort of business ins and outs for. So that's going to hopefully happen sometime soon. We'll see what happens. I think it's without giving away too much about the project. If you like my fan films and you like where I sort of come from in terms of my influences and my obvious sort of inspirations, then this is something that will probably be right up your alley. It's definitely rooted in 80s and 90s kind of film iconography and nostalgia. So we'll see what happens. Making movies is a tough gag.
You make it and I'll watch it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, that's why I shoot weddings on the weekends, because making movies is difficult.
Yep. Yeah. I used to do that too, Brian.
Well, there you go, right? The whole videography gig. But
yeah, exactly. When VHS was the rage.
Yep. I remember those days. But
and that's definitely our wheelhouse, that 80s and 90s stuff,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's exactly where this sort of project exists, is right in that wheelhouse of video rental heyday and sort of the crazy movie box art, that kind of stuff, that you'd sort of go to the video rental store and just browse the aisles and see like the craziest boxes on earth. And the movies usually wouldn't even be that good, but the box art was always amazing. And you'd be, as a kid, you'd look at this shit and you'd be like, oh my God, I can't even imagine what this movie is like. I got to rent it. But of course you're 10 years old and you fucking can't.
Or you pick up the box and there's no videos behind it. It's like, damn it.
Exactly.
It's all rented out.
So yeah, this project sort of exists in that sort of golden age of VHS direct-to-video horror and sort of like the mid to late 80s and early 90s nostalgia is what I'm trying to really, really spearhead with this project. And
quality, yeah.
It should be. I've got an interesting angle on it. I don't want to talk about it too much yet. If it doesn't happen, I'll come back on and totally and totally ruin it.
The kind of like a Stranger Things kind of deal, that show that kind of...
It's not, in the sense that a lot of the nostalgia pieces that have been done are straight up like, hey, let's take place in this era and try to recreate this era, much like, you know, something like Stranger Things or I don't know. Have you guys heard of Turbo Kid?
No.
Not myself. No.
I would definitely go check out. If you guys are into 80s and 90s sort of VHS culture, I would definitely check out Turbo Kid. It was made like 2 years ago, and the basic premise is it's the future apocalyptic wasteland of 1996. So the whole premise is this is supposed to be a movie that was made in the mid-'80s, but it's set nebulously in the mid-'90s after an apocalypse. So it already kind of gives you an idea of the kind of movie you're in for. Michael Ironside is in it. It's like Mad Max meets Rad, if that makes any sense, or BMX Bandits or something like that.
It's called Turbo Kid?
Turbo Kid. Tons of fun, super gory, total homage to mid-'80s sort of like post-apocalyptic trash, VHS trash. It's wonderful. Great movie. Lots of heart.
Check it out this afternoon.
It's awesome. You'll love it. But a lot of these movies basically try to recreate an era, and what I'm going to try to do, if it works, is comment on the era more and really examine what it is about nostalgia that connects us to it, you know, and do it in a way that is also sort of, it's all wrapped in this kind of bow of nostalgia. It's contemporary, takes place now, but it's all about sort of a bygone era. So hopefully it can be something pretty interesting. It's the only thing I'll say about it is that it is a horror film, a horror comedy, and it's got a lot to do with the video rental business of the late 80s and the early 90s. So I think it'll be a lot of fun if it happens. Who the hell knows? I've been trying to make movies for a long fucking time. And, about as far as I've gotten is making a couple of fan films that have seemed to do okay. So that's the peak of my success.
Excellent. Well, with that 80s stuff in mind, you guys looking forward to seeing Ready Player One?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I
got to finish the book first, but
I'm purposely not reading the book just so I can be surprised with the film. For the last 3 years, all my friends have been like, "You got to read this book. You got to read this book. This book is literally meant for you." And I'm like, Spielberg's making a movie. I'm going to wait it out.
Yeah, I guess the movie diverges quite a bit from the book, like Game of Thrones has done. You know, kind of gone way off the. But I'm still with the nostalgia bit. I'm looking forward to it big time. So.
Yeah, definitely myself as well. I actually got into VR a little while ago too, so that's like it's double exciting for me.
All right. Well, I got a little comment for you. First off, I want to tell you from the bottom of my heart that is the best Supergirl costume ever in any fan film that I've ever seen in Ash versus Lobo.
I gotta say something. That's not meant to be Supergirl. I gotta put that out there before I get crucified on the internet.
Last answer, yeah.
Don't burst my bubble, man.
It's the last answer capitalizing off of the Supergirl iconography.
All right.
I liked it either way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Best scene ever. Are you thinking what type of? I know you got your other projects that you're thinking of. You kind of left Ash versus Lobo open for a sequel. I mean, you never say never, right? So, any chance you're going to follow up?
Probably not. But like you just said, you never say never. It really depends, you know, if the stars align, so to speak. But I think everybody involved is we've all sort of gotten about as much as we can get creatively out of doing these projects, and we're all sort of we're kind of moved on from it. But you never know. I mean, we definitely said we wouldn't make a sequel after the first one, you know, and then that happened 3 years later. So who knows? Maybe we'll be back here in like 2024 and
Right.
Third fan film sequel.
Imagine what the effects and the technology will be at that point. The stuff you can do.
Who knows? I mean, it's definitely gotten to the point where it's totally democratized now. So I mean, with a little bit of elbow grease and some YouTube tutorials, you can pretty much pull off anything.
Yeah. Any comments from the Raimi camp?
No. I never did hear from the Raimi camp or Bruce Campbell. But I'm kind of, I'd rather almost not, because I'm aping their shit, So it's like, as much as it's a fan film, I feel like Bruce Campbell is pretty protective of that character. So I feel like if he did get a hold of me, he'd be like, "Yeah, great work, you son of a bitch. Stop copying my shit." And I'd be like, "Oh my God, thank you for cursing me out, Mr. Campbell. You got it." I did hear from Marvel though, and they were like, and they actually said exactly what I figured Bruce Campbell would say. They were like, "Hey, stop aping our shit." So they served us up with a quit what you're doing, little piece of paper. So we were like, "All right, well, cease and desist, huh? See you later." And the fan film ended up it was pulled right as it was going viral on our YouTube page, and it ended up being uploaded by a bunch of different just people who had seen it, who downloaded it and stuff like that. So it kind of exists in the ether now on YouTube. It doesn't really exist officially on our page.
Yeah, that seems to be not necessarily DC. Well, yeah, I guess DC. DC Marvel pulled a lot of fan films in the beginning, and then I think they just, like you said, someone can steal it and upload it. 24 people can steal it and upload it, and they're never gonna, put a kibosh on it. So I think they kind of eased off on fan filmmakers in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're not selling it, though, it would seem to me it's like you're kind of, you're kind of keeping that subject, something their intellectual property, but you're doing it as a fan out of love.
Exactly.
It seems silly for them to kind of go after a filmmaker for just doing something out of love.
And that was my original thought as well when it was pulled down. We didn't monetize the video. We didn't put any ads on it. It was available for free, and we were sort of surprised when it got pulled down. But I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's also a little flattering that Marvel went out of their way to shut me down. So hey, whatever. I mean, both of these fan films, I mean, that's why they're so hard to do, is there's no way to really turn any money around on them, because number one, it's fucking immoral, and number two, it's illegal. So it's like it's tough. You drop whatever you drop into these to get them off the ground, and that the most you're ever going to get out of it is people enjoying them. There's no monetary incentive whatsoever to do it. So that's kind of why it's hard to come back. On top of it, sort of feeling sort of creatively satisfied with the stuff that I've already done, and Ash officially being back, kind of taking the wind out of the sails. They're expensive, these things. I mean, not like super crazy expensive, but it's like, well, I got to give up my vacation this year, or I got to, that kind of thing. So it's tough, and it takes a lot of people. Even if there aren't a ton of people on screen at any given time, getting 20, 30 people together every night to do these, it's gotten tough. It's gotten tough.
Yep.
I think when I started, I was a little bit younger, and the people I were working with were a little bit younger, and we were all a little bit more flexible in our schedules and a little crazier, and a number of years have passed, and it's just a little more difficult to do these kind of things now.
Yeah. Actually,
jobs and families.
Yeah. I did location scouting for an Indiana Jones fan film, so I know where you're coming from. It took us a couple of years to get together, discuss it, do the locations, get the actors and the crew, and and you're filming Saturday and Sunday, and sometimes something comes up and an actor can't be there, so you got to reschedule. So there is a lot of work to it.
Yep. When you have money, it's easy. You can just throw the money at the problem and solve it. But when you're working with favors and with very, very, very little money, and everybody just kind of has to work around everyone else's schedules and this and that, it takes, like you said, it becomes very trying to put one of these projects together. And before you know it, it's been 6 months and you've been working on the same damn thing, and it's still not done. Because you got a night here and a night there, but half your nights are really, half shoot days because, this or that or the other thing. And, it's not, these aren't real films in the sense that there's enough money to solve any of the regular problems that you would have during a production. I mean, during Ash versus Lobo, we had this fucking street light that would keep turning on automatically about every, about every 10 to 15 minutes, and it would totally throw our lighting off. There was no way to flag it off so that it wouldn't, it wouldn't change the lighting scheme in the junkyard. And so about every 15 minutes or so, we would have to shut down and wait 15 to 20 minutes for the damn street light to shut off again. And it's like, all right, lights off. All right, come on, let's go. And it's like not having money, you don't have the luxury of solving these problems, and you just kind of have to work around them. And, like you were saying before, it's who knows how long, and the most you can really hope for is that when it's all said and done, that people enjoy it,
Yeah. Absolutely. What about you got, Jeff? Anything?
No, I just really enjoying this conversation. This is kind of, I could sit and do this for hours, a couple cold beers, This is like the most fun thing for me. Just kind of hanging out and talking to a couple guys that I know enjoy the same things I do, and not only that, but Brian's putting out products I'm enjoying watching. It's just fun.
I appreciate that.
Very, very enjoyable, and
Hey, are you familiar with
your efforts?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Are you familiar with the other Marvel zombie movie there that was made a few years ago?
Yeah.
That was also pulled.
Yeah, no, that was also pulled. I think that was back in like the mid-2000s, I want to say.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Like 06, 07, something like that. I think the guy who did it was had some sort of involvement with Trauma, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I think he did effects for some Trauma productions and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'd seen that, and I thought it was really, really cool in that kind of like grindhouse sort of way. A lot of fun. But Marvel is very much back then. They were very, very, very stingy with what they allowed. Like you said, they took that down. They took me down. There was like a Punisher fan film right around the time, actually right as I was in production on Marvel Zombies, news broke out of sort of a high-profile Punisher fan film being served with a cease and desist. So that was my first sort of like, oh shit. Marvel's kind of having, it's that time of the month for Marvel right now, and I don't want to be anywhere around them. But it's funny, like
flow.
Yeah, right. They were just stomping around, and that was scary. Like, I remember we were shooting, and they pulled it, and I was like, "Holy shit, they're gonna come after me next." They just pulled another Marvel fan film. This does not bode well.
You mentioned Trauma films. I was familiar with some of their stuff from the Toxic Avenger, and I didn't realize they were still in business till my younger brother lived in California. He actually starred in a Trauma film called Killer Yacht Party.
That sounds like Trauma.
Pretty bad, but I own it on DVD because it's my little brother. So.
Sure. Yeah, no, Trauma goes way back, man. Lloyd Kaufman. I mean, his brand of shitty movies are responsible for more than, so much more than we know. I mean, looking at even Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, he's sitting there with a nice little medium shot cameo in the middle of that movie because James Gunn came from Trauma and Lloyd Kaufman gave him his first job and his first writing gig and so on and so forth. So, like, Trauma reaches far and wide, as shitty as those movies are. Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, but they're shitty fun, though.
They're shitty fun. Well, I mean, the thing with Troma movies is they always manage, a lot of them anyway, manage to have social commentary in there and political commentary. So, I mean, there'd be like tits and arms getting ripped off 1 second, and then there'd be some sort of jab at like the status quo the next, and you're like, wait, what? So, it was this weird mixed bag of like Lloyd Kaufman trying to say something with his movies while also tits. strange combination that worked though for them for a long time.
The best of both worlds.
Best of both worlds, right?
So are you familiar at all with Bat in the Sun?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, because I bring that up because you did the superhero beatdown. You're familiar with that, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because you did that slash up was kind of the same thing, but just with the
horror and movie characters more than comic book characters. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, that was where Marvel Zombies led after that project.
Gotcha.
We were trying to figure out what to do now that some people knew who we were, and we're like, well, I mean, Bat in the Sun does their thing with comic book characters. Why the hell can't we do our thing with movie and horror characters? And so the idea was to do, that kind of same format, but, with movie iconography. And we landed on Sarah Connor and Jason Voorhees on the first episode just because, frankly, those were the two cheapest that I could think of a story for that we could actually pull off, We knew that there'd be no way to do some of the bigger characters. It's like you can't bring Pinhead into any of this stuff because that's like, a $5,000 suit right there, just to get that done, that kind of thing. So, we landed on Sarah Connor and Jason, and there was this through line of the final girl with all it's always down to the final girl. So Sarah Connor is the kind of ultimate final girl in the Terminator film, the first one, and then she becomes this total badass in the second one. So it's like, okay, well, let's pit Jason Voorhees against the ultimate final girl. So that was the nexus of that idea, and it did okay. It didn't do gangbusters or anything. I think it brought in like 650,000 views or something like that, like the first couple of weeks that it landed. And we had wanted to do a Patreon for our channel, just to get support to do more fan films and stuff like that. And that didn't really pan out. And I'm kind of glad that it didn't rather, just because I wouldn't want to be stuck like making fan films constantly and, and just be locked into that with, patrons sort of donating every month and expecting to see that kind of content. It's just, I'm glad it didn't work out. And I also had
okay.
No, I'm serious. I also had John Carpenter tell me to stop ripping people off. I was too talented. So I was like, wow, that's the most painful compliment that I've ever heard. Thank you. I sent it his way just for the hell of it. I thought, what the hell? Not that John Carpenter has anything to do with Friday the 13th, but I figured, what the hell? Send it his way, see what he thinks. He's a filmmaker that I greatly admire. And he took the time to kindly respond and tell me that I was that I should stop ripping off other people's characters and I should never touch Michael Myers, and that I'm talented enough to go out and do my own thing. And I was like, wow, thank you. Awesome. I appreciate that. I was like, oh, yeah, that was like the best compliment I've ever gotten. I was like, thank you, Mr. Carpenter. I will absolutely not rip off your character. And so it's funny that I get asked about doing like a Michael Myers thing, and I'm always like immediately like, nope, never going to happen.
Yeah, that's kind of weird what they're doing with Halloween. They're doing a sequel to the first one after they had a kazillion sequels after the first one, and actually Carpenter's going to produce or executive produce, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Lee Curtis, but now she's back for the new one.
Yeah, it's like she already came back once again.
A couple times, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. It's like what the big splash is supposed to be. I mean, I'll see it. I like Halloween. I'm not the biggest Halloween fan, but I'll see it. And I do like Danny McBride and that crew. So strangely, I don't know how they got the gig on this film. They're not the first filmmakers that I would think of for.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It is Danny McBride, right?
I do believe it. You are correct. I can look it up real quick.
I mean, I love Danny McBride. I think he's a funny son of a bitch. But I just don't know.
From Eastbound and Down?
Yeah. He's
hilarious.
He is. He's fucking great. But I'm just not sure where Halloween and him, where they sort of cross on the Venn diagram. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and you're correct. Yeah, he's one of the screenwriters.
Hey, I love his work, so I'll go see it, and I do like Halloween, so I'll go see it. I'm just, on paper, I'm just not sure. It just sounds a little weird, but whatever, It's not the first time Halloween's gotten weird.
Right, exactly.
So what's your guys' favorite horror franchise?
I would have to say Halloween.
Halloween? Okay.
Yeah.
I was always a fan, and I was never a huge horror guy, but I always was a fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street, at least the Robert Englund ones. Jackie Earle Haley is a different kind of Freddy Krueger, I think. So. Yeah.
No, I did. I really enjoyed the Nightmare films too. I thought they were always on the more creative end of the slasher films.
Yeah.
Definitely. Big Hellraiser fan too. Not that any of the recent films deserve that, but the franchise itself is awesome. I think the core mythos and the characters and stuff like that. I've always been a big fan.
So can you also comment? We'll wrap it up here. We're almost into an hour, but do you want to comment also on this? I watched one episode this morning. The hosts and their guests were kissing a mannequin with strange shit on its lips. Good mythical morning. You want to comment on that at all?
I'm very aware of Good Mythical Morning. I know who Rhett and Link are. I did not see this morning's episode, but they're usually doing a lot of weird, gross shit that I find weird and gross.
Were you involved in that? I'm just looking at your IMDb page. That's why I bring it up.
Oh, mine?
Yeah. Says you were assistant media manager on that. What does that mean?
What the? If I was, I didn't know about that.
You're assistant media manager on Good Mythical Morning. Congratulations.
No kidding. This is awesome because I've actually been meaning to get a hold of Rhett and Link.
Yeah. What it says right here, man. It's on your page. You are Brian Rosenthal. This is Brian Rosenthal, right?
Wow. Yeah, no, I'm looking at my IMDb right now, and somebody absolutely fucked up. That's
crazy, man.
Yeah, I'll take it, I guess. I mean, 28 episodes on Good Mythical Morning. I mean, I know how to assistant media manage. Not that I did that job, but if somebody needs me to do it, now I've got the credentials.
Yep.
That's where your residual check is, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, right. No, that's pretty funny. Hey, you learn something new every day. I hope I get credit for lots more projects that I have nothing to do with.
Right. I wish I could go to work and just get a paycheck. I know that not your case in this case, but
I always joke around because the CEO of Eastman Kodak here his name is the same as mine, Jeffrey Clark. I wish they'd get our paychecks mixed up once in a while, but it doesn't happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
But his last name is spelled with an E, though, so.
Oh, time to change your last name.
You're right. As long as that check cashes, I'll do
it. Exactly. I'm thinking about going on IMDb now and looking up like the most famous people with popular names and just changing my name to that. And that way, they're bound to fuck up and give me credit for something big.
Yep, there you go. Get some jobs that way.
Exactly.
What is the Florida movie scene like? Is there a Florida movie scene?
Is there a Florida movie scene?
Yeah.
Not really.
Not really?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
It's pretty sparse around here.
Yeah.
They got rid of the film incentives years ago now, so basically nobody really films in Florida. It's pretty much dried up. Not a lot of talent down here, not a hell of a lot of crew. I mean, there's plenty of indie stuff going on in Miami, like micro budget stuff, like super, super low budget, but nothing real unless, a bigger production decides they want to film in Miami or something like that, like Fast and the Furious or a Michael Bay movie or something like that.
Well, they filmed Burn Notice there, right? Speaking of Bruce Campbell, they filmed Burn Notice there.
Yeah, they did, but I think that wrapped up right around the time the incentives went away, too, like around 2014, maybe a little bit before that. Could be wrong. But, it's there's some good people around here. It's just, definitely not the most, thriving community, I wouldn't say.
All right, Jeff, you got anything else for Brian?
No, not really. I really want to thank him. Brian, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. I enjoyed your films, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. So you keep making them. We'll keep watching them.
Thank you, Chris and Jeff. I really appreciate this. It was a lot of fun.
All right, Brian. Thanks for calling in today, and what Jeff said. Right back at you. You took the words out of my mouth.
Stealing your thunder. That's how I roll. Take care.
All right. And this has been the Fan Film Podcast, episode 81, with Brian Rosenthal. And any final words there, Jeffrey?
No, I'm having fun. I'm looking forward to doing this on a continuing basis. So.
All right, very good. Yeah, Mr. Don Glute was supposed to be with us this week, and he had some editing duties to do for his new film, but he said he's going to be back, or he'll be on next week. So next Sunday we'll, I'm assuming Mr. Don Glute. Sorry, I always mispronounce his name. All right, Jeff, I'm going to...
Thanks, sir.
I will catch you later.
Fantastic. We'll see you later.
All right. Peace out.